Good morning. Today's topic is going to be scientific method. Scientific method is a way that scientists approach a problem or a question and go through a systematic series of steps to develop a solution or an answer to that question or problem. It's more than just a series of steps though, it's a way of thinking. And I almost guarantee that all of you guys are thinking like this all the time and you're just not putting a name to it. When we talk about scientific method, the first thing you have to do is come up with a problem or a question that you have. So for me, right now, it's the middle of summer. I've got a zoo in my backyard. I've got tortoises and dogs and kids and flies. We have a big fly problem this year. We have it pretty much every summer. And this year, that is my mission, how to get rid of the flies so that I can utilize my backyard more now that we're staying home and staying safe. First thing I'm going to do is do some research. I'm going to read about what the flies like, what they don't like. I'm a mom, so I went to Pinterest and I looked up how to do natural fly repellent. Again, I've got a ton of animals in my backyard, so I'm looking for something that I can get rid of the flies and it's not going to hurt the animals that I have. As I'm going through Pinterest, I'm writing down my sources. I'm writing down, where am I finding this information? What is this information telling me? And then I came up with a hypothesis. So based on my background reading, based on what I have found out as I've studied this problem, I'm going to come up with a hypothesis, a best guess, an informed guess on what I can do to solve my problem. And as I was reading through, I found out that flies don't like sage, they don't like marigolds, they don't like spearmint. And so I then decided to devise my experiment based on that hypothesis. And so I went to Home Depot and I went to Lowe's and I bought a bunch of sage, spearmint, and mint, and I planted it in my backyard. Now, at this point, I'm going to start collecting data. I'm going to start kind of keeping track of how many flies I see. Where are the flies? Are the flies in any one area more than they're in another area? If I were doing this for, say, an IA, an individual investigation where I'm going to have to write a full-on lab report, I would start like a chart and I'd cordon off my backyard, and every time I'd go out, I'd count how many flies, and I would do this maybe 3 times a day. Based on that information, I'd graph and I'd see, okay, as my sage grew, did my flies get less? Or what I actually observed was the flies were landing on the sage and they were landing on the mint. So maybe what I was reading off of Pinterest wasn't an accurate solution to my problem. So now I got to go back to the drawing board. Now I got to do more research. And that is kind of the moral of this whole story about the flies in my backyard, is I did everything right. I came up with a question. I came up with research. I came up with a hypothesis, and I did my research and put that hypothesis into action by planting all of the stuff in my backyard, and it didn't solve my problem. That's okay. Science is okay to be wrong, and my science was wrong. And so I had to go back to the drawing board. Okay, now what am I going to do? Let's say for argument's sake that my science was right and the sage worked. Now, in order for me to have a valid conclusion, I'm going to tell people. When you guys do this, this is right in the conclusion section of your lab. But it could also be me picking up the phone and saying, hey, Mrs. Miller, I think I solved our fly issue. If you plant this stuff in your backyard. And she's going to peer review that. She's going to follow my procedure, and she's going to plant that stuff in her backyard, and she's going to keep track of her flies. And here's the deal with science. It's not enough for me to do it and get results. Someone else has to do it too. Someone else has to follow my procedure, my experiment, and get the same results. And if Mrs. Miller gets the same results, maybe I call up Miss Kozik and I say, hey, this is working for Mrs. Miller and I. Is it working for you? And if it works for all of us, then I can say, you know what? I think this is the solution. I can always prove myself wrong. I can never truly prove myself right. All I can say is, it's worked for me, it's worked for Mrs. Miller, it's worked for Miss Kozik. A bunch of people have tried this and it's worked. Therefore, I think it's the answer. But I'm never going to know for sure. It's going to be the answer until all of a sudden it doesn't work. Couple things. One, it's the answer until it doesn't work, which means you can be wrong and you can change your mind. We're not playing politics here. If all of a sudden we get better data, we can change our mind. You guys saw this happen. You saw it with the masks, where when coronavirus first came out, everyone said, oh, don't wear masks. Masks don't help. Masks aren't going to solve the problem. And now it's mandatory to wear masks. It's not that they're flip-flopping. It's not that people don't know. It's not that they weren't telling you the truth. It's that we have better data now to show that masks are effective. And that's okay. Science is allowed to take new data and go in new directions. All right, that's the end of our little informational talk right now. And you guys have an assignment to do, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.